Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Thursday afternoon right here on the Horn. I'm your host, Patrick Davis. Coming up on today, the NBA has released this schedule. Not a lot you can do with an NBA schedule release, but we'll get you some key dates, a couple things to note from the NBA schedule release, a little bit of talk about tonight's game, a little bit of Cowboys update, Patrick's big fat poll of the day, some NFL news. Todd Dodge, legendary coach here in Texas, was on Ian Robbie this morning. We'll play that interview for you as well. Some player audio. Keelan Robinson, Jonathan Brooks, and Jaron Thompson all talked to the media yesterday. We have some audio from that and talk some Texas football. And since we don't have the Rangers, we got a full show today. We did have Jared Sandler from the Rangers broadcast team join the show. He's going to call in at 6:30 today to talk some Texas Rangers, get you ready for the weekend series against the Brewers of the Rangers. All that coming up here on the show, the Sports Complex. Remember, you can join the conversation. 512-337-3776. 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line number where you can join the conversation and come play with us here at the Sports Complex. All right. Let's get into some NBA real quick. I know we're not going to go too far into it. We're still on the holdout of when Miami and the Trailblazers, what they're going to do with Dame Lillard and James Harden and his telling everybody that he hates Daryl Morey. All that's still out there. But the schedule was released today. And so some games that you should know, we'll get into that. Opening night, you're going to see Lakers versus Nuggets, Suns versus Warriors is October 24th. It's going to be on TNT. You get your opening night, Lakers versus Nuggets. The media gets what they want. LeBron James versus the defending world champs. You get your LA team, you get your major market versus the Nuggets, show that off. And then Suns Warriors, we get to see Kevin Durant and his new team go against his old championship team. And the Warriors, do the Warriors still have legs? They made that Chris Paul trade that he was part of. He was on the Warriors and then, or he was on the Suns and now he's on the Warriors, and Kevin Durant was on the Warriors and now he's on the Sun. And it's going to be a fun game opening night. The Mavs and Spurs open against each other the next night, October 25th. Both teams are going to open against each other on ESPN. One thing you're going to see, the Spurs are getting 11 nationally televised games, 8 on NBA TV. That is 19 nationally televised games. You can include NBA TV, but ESPN, TNT, those kind of channels, ABC, that is 11 of those. And then 8 more on NBA TV for the Spurs because Wemby Mania is in full effect. We see the teams like the Orlando Magic and some other teams with young, promising stars, the Detroit Pistons, not as thrilled that the Spurs are getting all of the hype, but that's what's going to be happening. The Mavs playing the Suns on Christmas. They're rounding out your Christmas night, which is, I know, the first night a lot of people start to care about basketball. If you're a Mavs fan, you'll get to see, and we'll know a little bit more if this Mavs team has imploded. I mean, you got basically October, November, December 25th. We should be getting 3 months. We'll see if Kyrie can hold it together for 3 whole months, because we know that has not always been possible. But if he's holding it together, then you get to play a great matchup against the Suns, which who knows what that Suns team is going to look like. There's one basketball. You add in Bradley Beal. You have Kevin Durant on that team. Devin Booker's still on that team. You add in Bledsoe. Like, there's so many people. And DeAndre Ayton's still on this team, who wasn't happy he was getting the ball enough when it was just Chris Paul and Devin Booker. He was not as thrilled as how much he was going to get the ball. So I don't know what they're going to do. But that is going to be a fun matchup on Christmas. And if you're an Austin Spurs fan, if you're a fan of the Spurs here, San Antonio Spurs fan in Austin, they're moving up. They're still doing 2 games here at the Moody Center, but they are moving that up. They're moving up these Spurs Austin games to March 15th against the Nuggets, and March 17th versus the Nets is going to be during South by Southwest. And I know that that's had to be one of the reasons that the Spurs, and this is right before the NCAA tournament, so this will be right around Big 12 tournament time. I know my man Eddie Oren has got to be loving that the Nets are going to be here, but he's probably going to be off at the Big 12 tournament anyway. So it's going to conflict with Texas basketball, but it won't be the Texas basketball won't be at the Moody Center. They should be off at the Big 12 tournament. That is what is happening. March 15th and 17th at the Moody Center. The Spurs are coming down. It'll be mayhem. I'm sure there'll be more activations during South by Southwest as the Spurs try and bring their brand of basketball and kind of take over the Austin area. I know they're They're big on trying to come into Austin right now. The few people I've talked to around the organization, they're very much into the idea of spreading their growth, spreading their reach to the Austin area. And I mean, I grew up a Spurs fan, so I'm all for it. I know Mavs fans in town and Rockets fans that aren't as loud right now, are not going to go for it as much, but that is what they're doing. And look, the reality is, if you love basketball, it's a fun team to watch this season for a couple reasons. One is Victor Wembanyama. So whether you like him or you don't, you can go check him out and see what you think and see what your opinion is on the Phenom. If this guy's going to be, if you see the potential, or if you don't, that's something to check out with Wembanyama. But what I'm really looking for, especially early in the season, is there's basically two pieces on this Spurs team that you need to figure out if they can play with Victor Wembanyama and how they play with him. That's Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sohan. I'm not the biggest Jeremy Sohan fan. I think Wembanyama is, considering the fact that from pictures, Wembanyama has dyed his hair. He's already got the Sohan look going. I'm not the hugest Sohan fan. I'm not a fan of somebody who trash talks as much as he does and can't back it up at a full level. I'm not a huge fan of, he's very inconsistent to me. And maybe he'll fix it. And you know what? He's a Spurs, so I'm hoping he fixes it. But those are some of the things that do worry me about Jeremy Sohan. But when you talk about playing with Wembanyama, if we say, well, Victor Wembanyama is not really a standard five, so we don't want Victor Wembanyama guarding Jokic. You don't want him guarding an Embiid. You don't want him guarding an Anthony Davis even necessarily in the post. You want him to be more of a perimeter defender and step out a little bit more, and you want him to be a help side defender on blocking shots. But for Sohan, you need to be able to figure out if you are going to be able to step up and play a five and body up and be able to body on an Embiid or a Jokic or a Valanciunas or, just any of the big guys in the league right now that could go in there and try and body you up. Because if you can't play a five, it may be hard to get the lineup where you want to have your best five guys on the court, and that's Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. But if you don't have a five in that lineup and no one can guard, and the best player in the league and the best team in the league that just won an NBA championship, the Nuggets, with a center, you're going to have to figure that out. So that is something to be watching for the Spurs. We still got a little bit of time. It's till October 24th. I just like talking Spurs because I was a basketball player. So that's what I love doing. I do want to mention some stuff in the NFL, though. And the thing I was looking at the other day is I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I didn't go full Rod Babers rabbit hole, but I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And looking at how top 5 and top 10 quarterbacks tend to fare in their NFL careers. And I was trying to look at, since all three quarterbacks have now basically been named starters, I believe C.J. Stroud's the last one to be named a week 1 starter. He's been named starter for another week in preseason. Anthony Richardson has been named the starter. I believe Bryce Young has been named the number 1 quarterback. So for those three, it is a good I appreciate having you're getting 3 starters, right? And so you start to look at what other years, and it has been, there was no quarterbacks in the top 10 in 2022. You had 3 quarterbacks in the top 3 in 2021, which is very rare. You had 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 in 2020, and it's actually the anomaly year with Joe Burrow, Tua, and Justin Herbert, that all 3 of those seem to be like they could be franchise quarterbacks. But your more regular year is a 2021 with Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance, which is, hey man, Zach Wilson may be okay, and Trey Lance maybe, but both those guys could be washed out, not really ever starters. One of them could come back and play, but odds are Trevor Lawrence is your only guy that comes out of there. So if you look at all the quarterbacks drafted since I went back to the year 2000 for top 10 quarterbacks, there's 40 quarterbacks taken in the top 10 since the year 2000. And I gave pretty favorable decisions on whether guys would be a franchise quarterback or not since the year 2000 if they're top 10 pick. 17 is all you get. So, and that's pretty favorable because some of those guys, that's where you're putting on an Alex Smith, I'm counting as a franchise quarterback. He's all right. He's okay. But, I don't know if he's necessarily the guy that you'd want to be your franchise quarterback. Jared Goff, good quarterback. I don't know if anybody says, man, when we drafted him, he's shown now, years and years later, that he's that guy. So I gave some favorable players a pass. But if you're really looking at the numbers of how top 10 quarterbacks historically do in the NFL, you're shooting at below 50% success rate of top 5 quarterbacks. And I'll tell you, to Texans fans, the number 2 pick doesn't end up really well that often. The quarterback's taken at number 2. I had to go back to before the year 2000 to find a successful number 2 quarterback. Or a quarterback taken at number 2, I should say, in the NFL draft. And in 1999, Donovan McNabb goes, I believe, after Tim Couch. Goes 1 and 2, Tim Couch 1, and Donovan McNabb at 2 in 1999. That is your most successful number 2 overall pick at quarterback. At least I went back to 1970 on that one. I couldn't find another one that was more successful. So it's not common that if there's a quarterback 1 and 2, that you're going to get the second one to be really good. Normally, you have to wait a little bit. Some other guys go in. Anthony Richardson, I think, falls into the category more of a Justin Herbert or a Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys that, or maybe even I'll even throw in a Daniel Jones, that is a little bit later in that draft, who's still a top 10 pick, but they're not immediately, like, you didn't have to get him. I know he went number 4, but that's simply because that's when the Colts had the pick. So that's when they traded back, and that's where they were able to end up. They wanted a quarterback. That's what they get. But this should tell you that your odds of looking at these quarterbacks, the odds would tell you that one of them can be a good quarterback. Not necessarily, and all of them could fail. But your odds are not that all 3 will be good quarterbacks. So I think when you start to look at this as an NFL team, and hey man, it's very rarely at all 3. So if the Texans really were on the fence that they would have taken Bryce Young if they had the number 1 pick, if that was really what it was, I think you have to be a little bit more careful with handling CJ Stroud and maybe not throw him out week 1. I know that that's going against what I've said before, because I think, CJ Stroud's clearly the guy. Davis Mills is the guy. Case Keenum is someone you could put into the game, but I don't know if he is somebody that you want to put into the game. But I don't know if you're the Houston Texans. I think you really, really have to look at maybe putting Case Keenum in, slowing up CJ Stroud if he does not progress at the rate you need him to, instead of sticking him out there and having him become somebody like a Zach Wilson or a Sam Darnold that gets in way over their head and isn't able to catch up. And once it gets behind them, it's always behind them. I would be a little bit more careful if I was the Texans right now. And I know they don't have their number 1 pick, their first round pick next year. So maybe you can't afford to do it. You have to go full force. I'm a little bit worried. We'll see this weekend if he looks a little bit better. All the reports were out of practice. He's looked better. I want to see a little bit more out of CJ Stroud before I anoint him. When you look at the numbers and say, odds are he's going to take some time to develop, even if he is able to go. Odds are not all 3 of them are going to go. And I think you should be careful. And if you're the Panthers, it's fine. If you don't really have somebody else, I think Case Keenum is serviceable. So it's something the Texans should look at. I might still start CJ Stroud week 1, but I was looking at these numbers and looking at how these players progress in the top 5 draft picks and top 10 draft picks, and that you're really shooting below 50%. It gave me a little less hope about what was going to happen for the Texans and CJ Stroud, because, man, that second quarterback taken is a pretty large miss rate at the number 2 pick. It is basically Donovan McNabb, and then your other number 2 picks, that second quarterback taken in the draft. If you have the number 2, it's also, Marcus Mariota. It's okay. Carson Wentz, who had a good season. Mitchell Trubisky was number 2, but he was the first quarterback taken, but that didn't work out great for him. Zach Wilson's the number 2. The numbers of number 2, the quarterbacks taken at number 2 are not great. It is somewhat of a, loose judgment of how to judge a quarterback. But just saying, the second quarterback taken in the draft historically is not going to rack up as good as the first, just historically. So you have to be careful. Speaking of quarterbacks, tonight we have the Cleveland Browns playing the Philadelphia Eagles. There's not a lot of notes about the Philadelphia Eagles. There's not a lot you can go into about the Philadelphia Eagles. We know that they're basically ready for the season. They have their guys. They have their starters. There are not too many position battles you're looking for. One note for the Browns, though. Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA, 5th-round pick, is starting tonight. All we've heard is reports that Deshaun Watson is not playing up to that level, that Deshaun Watson has still not been able to return to form. And, again, it's preseason. Again, it's scrimmages, stuff like that. They scrimmaged with the Eagles during the week, and it did not go well. Eagles have a good defense. Here's some Dorian Thompson-Robinson stats to get you a little bit more amped up about watching this kid tonight. And if you don't like Deshaun Watson, this is the kid you need to root for. Because we know Kellen Mond is not taking over the job from Deshaun Watson. With Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the guy that if Deshaun Watson struggles at any point, and they may say, oh, well, we have that injury or something, or we may want to sit him back a little bit, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the guy to look at. So far in preseason, 9 of 10 passing, 102 passing yards. Or, sorry, in these last game, 9 of 10 passing, 102 passing yards, 11 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 142.5 passer rating, and he played 1 quarter. He's now up to 184 yards, passing yards, 47 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first 2 preseason games. He's played about 2 or 3 quarters so far. He is looking like he wants to come in and make an impact. It's preseason, not a lot to watch for, but watch Dorian Thompson-Robinson tonight against the Eagles, playing for the Browns. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, something very fun to watch tonight. Finally, let's get over to Mike McCarthy. We know that there's been chippy practices. They have been happening across the league, that people are starting to get into chippier and chippier fights. It is hot. It is tiring. We are at the end of camp. Everybody just wants to be done and start playing football for real. So I get why they're getting chippier and chippier. The Cowboys had several fights yesterday break out. There was the main one of Sam Williams and the offensive line were getting into it, and Sam Williams started to get chippy. Tyler Biadasz bounced back at him and knocked him out, or knocked him down. Then later in the day, the fight broke out again, and Biadasz and Sam Williams get into it, and Micah Parsons came out swinging, and Mike McCarthy came out afterwards. Said he's fine with fights at practice. It happens. People are, you get amped up. You're going to go fight. He's fine with them. He doesn't like punches because, man, that's how you get suspended. So Mike McCarthy, again, goes, I'm not going to get too into it, which I get, but I'm still a little bit worried about this Mike McCarthy offensive coordinator, glorified offensive coordinator position that he seems to be in this year. And that's going to lead us to the Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. We'll put up the answers on social media. Yesterday, we asked you who is the breakout player for the Cowboys going to be this season, and DeMarvion Overshown comes away with the win on that poll for us. Not surprising if we know who the clientele who's voting. DeMarvion Overshown comes out above Deuce Vaughn. KaVontae Turpin, no love for KaVontae Turpin on that poll. And Mozzie Smith got a couple votes as well. But I want to ask you, so Mike McCarthy, to me, is on the hot seat. And I know he's not listed on a lot of teams' hot seats, but with Dan Quinn right behind him, there's no way I look at this and don't think Mike McCarthy, if the Cowboys offense does not progress and they got rid of Kellen Moore, who was one of Jerry's guys, and if Dak Prescott, the guy that they want to sign and go, doesn't progress this year and starts to regress again and starts throwing interceptions and everything starts to go wrong offensively for the Cowboys, there's one guy to blame left. And if you're going to try and compete and you're starting to hand out big contracts, Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat for me. But what I want to ask you, join the conversation, 512-337-3776, Specs text line. Which NFL coach is on the biggest hot seat going into the season? Who's on the hot seat in the NFL coaching world? There's some teams, and not all of them for me, not all the coaches on the hot seat for me, are necessarily teams that need to play huge games and play and win a ton. Ron Rivera, to me, is on the hot seat. It's a new organization, a new ownership comes in. He's kind of the old guard. He's already had to come out and explain himself once for what he said about Eric Bieniemy being too tough on the guys and yelling too much in practice. He already had to do that. So you just want to see if maybe they say, after this year, we underperformed again. Ron, it's this time we just get a new start. Brandon Staley and the Chargers. Man, you keep trying to do it. Now you got Kellen Moore in there. If you can't achieve anything in LA with all of those players and you just paid Justin Herbert a big contract and that defense that you're supposed to be a defensive guy, Brandon Staley, are you in the hot seat? Is it your time? Josh McDaniels and the Raiders? Come on, Raiders fans. You know this one's true. Josh McDaniels should have been fired last year. He's an awful head coach. I don't think his seat's hot. I think his seat is on fire. I don't think he has a seat anymore because he's just a bad head coach. He just is. He wants to do things his way or the highway, but his way doesn't work either. So it's just a bunch of people. And Josh Jacobs, we don't even know if he's going to show up. We've seen the new contracts. He's not getting paid. He's definitely not getting paid. So Josh McDaniels has to be on the hot seat. Who do you think is the coach that is on the biggest hot seat going into this season? NFL coach. Tell us on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776, 512-337-3776. We come back. Legendary head coach, former UT quarterback, Todd Dodge, joined E and Rod B this morning. They had a great conversation. And if you love Texas football, you will enjoy this conversation as well. We're playing that when we come back here on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, hornfm.com, and on the Horn app. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn, doing our rain dance here on the Horn, trying to get some rain for us, playing rain songs all week until we get to 512 Friday tomorrow, but rain songs all throughout the week. And I guarantee you I'm not voice tracked right now, but I am going to play you a clip from Ian Robbie this morning. They spoke to the legendary coach here in Texas, Todd Dodge. It's a great conversation about football, and it's going to get you ready, get you amped up to watch some football tonight, to watch some football coming up in about 16, 17 days.
Special guests and more. 101.9 FM, 1260 AM, and worldwide on the Horn app. Austin sports leader, the Horn.
And so that kind of scratches the itch a little bit. And then, yes, last season was my first year in retirement, and I saw Riley's team, the South Lake Carroll Dragons, play probably 7 times, of their 14 games. Saw the Chaparrals play. Probably will go back to more of Chaparral games this year. I didn't want to be that guy that retired and just kept trying to hang around and stuff, last year. But love Tony and all the guys over there at Westlake. They're doing such a great job. And then, I've got 4 grandchildren and 1 more on the way. And so that's a lot of fun.
Hey, Coach, are you getting enough of your football fix now in your retirement? When guys leave the game in any capacity, whether player or coach, they have this addiction to the game. It's a part of your DNA. Are you getting enough of your football fix through the camps and being around your sons and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think so, Rod. It definitely is not something that you can just do cold turkey.
Yep.
I mean, and I always tell coaches, this time of year, I don't care whether you coach in Texas high school football or at the collegiate level, if someone wanted to knock off a coach, take him out, it wouldn't be hard to do because they'd know where to find him every day, every minute of every day. There's such a, regiment that you get into, and we kind of love that grind, and when you retire, when it's over with, you can't, there's a lot of things that, you can't just stop at all. And so, yes, being involved with young quarterbacks and receivers, being involved with my son's teams. I've done, quite a few speaking. I do some staff consulting. I do some speaking, on at different clinics and things like that across the country. And that's also been fun. Elizabeth and I get to travel doing that stuff.
Nice.
Well, that's great to hear. And 7 times a state champion as a head coach at the 5A and 6A level. Of course, Westlake 3 in a row on the way out, and what a run. Coach, your son's at South Lake Carroll. Can we ask you a little bit about Quinn Ewers? Obviously, he played for Riley, and now he is emerging as the leader of this Texas football team. And I'm sure Riley still keeps in contact with Quinn. Everything we've seen and heard from him, he looks like a different guy. He's got the haircut, and he's slimmed down, and really, really attention to detail stuff. What are you hearing from Riley? What are you seeing from Quinn Ewers going into his second full year?
Well, first of all, from Riley, yes, they are still very close. Riley, coached him for 3 years. He was part of their varsity for part of his freshman year. Took him to a semifinal his sophomore year, and then took him to the state championship game his junior year. So, yeah, they were together a long time. I personally had Quinn in camp back when he was a rising ninth grader, and it doesn't take long to figure out when you can hear the ball coming out of someone's hand like you could that even at that age. But it's really good. I mean, Quinn is so, he's such a good kid. He really is. And I think people who've been around him, and this is coming from Riley more than anything, he's kind of a little bit shy and introverted a little bit. But I think he's really stepping out of that and becoming the leader that he needs to be. And it doesn't take long to figure out when you just see him, when they do a news clip of the Longhorn or something, that he has definitely kind of redefined what his body should look like, and that's a good thing. And I think one thing people don't realize, and Riley and I were talking about this the other day, Riley was saying, I don't think people really realize what a really good athlete he is. You kind of, last year you got the mullet, and you got the beard, and you kind of got the body's a little bit dumpy looking, and all of a sudden people, but now he's kind of back. When he was in high school, I mean, he was a track athlete also, he was a member of the mile relay team, the 4x2. He could scoot now. I can remember watching him as a sophomore take 180 to the house on zone read against Denton Geyer, and they got some guys that can run. So, big Quinn fan, obviously. Just look for great things for him.
Hey, Coach, your name, the family name, and your brand has become synonymous with quarterback development. And it's almost its own industry now, just quarterback development. Guys become made men in football because of their evaluation and development of the quarterback. And you are one of those made men because everybody, you seem to have the magic touch. What do you look for when you are looking for a quarterback? What are the traits that you identify that, hey, these are traits I must have in a quarterback, because you've turned Westlake into one of the greatest quarterback factories, or helped turn into one of the greatest quarterback factories in the country?
Yeah, well, probably the number one thing is he coachable? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when we were all young, I think we probably got told, hey, you got to be coachable, or man, he's so coachable, or you'd hear somebody go, that kid is so uncoachable. Yeah. And I used to think, I didn't know what the hell that meant. I mean, I thought it meant saying yes sir, no sir. And I think that's what a lot of kids do. Yes sir, no sir, and, a lot of times that has no, I always tell our kids at Westlake, I said, shit. I said, y'all are, that's manners. That's what, yes sir, no sir is manners. That's because your parents raised you good and all that. So being coachable is doing something the way a coach asks you to do it the very first time he asks you to do it, to the best of your ability. So I think at the quarterback position, that's key, because there is a certain way that you're going to do something, whether it's throwing the ball, whether it's running the zone read, whether it's playing without the ball, whether it's the RPO game. So I think that's number one. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, can we develop this kid into being someone who is absolutely ultra accurate? Can he make the routine look routine? In the age of what we're in, the post routes, the fly routes, the double move, deep routes, that's all the sexy stuff. And I tell our quarterbacks all the time, that's not what makes these offenses go. The ones that make the offense go is, can you be a quarterback that can put your team in second down and 4-3-2-1 about 8 times a game? And that's a lot of times that's kind of an untalked about down and distance. And I always tell them, I said, if we can live in second down and 4 or less about 8 times a game, guess what? If we don't turn the ball over, we're going to win a lot of football games, because A, we're going to stay on the field, and B, we are going to have a lot of explosives, because we're going to be able to take them in times that not everybody in 3 counties going, what's the fly route, what's the post route, that kind of deal. Yep.
Question, Coach, was our producer Ty Henderson a coachable player? Is he a coachable guy, or what? What are we doing?
I tell you what, Ty has got one of the nicest tattoo / brands on his back that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, we've heard the brand story. It's always to get the attention of a girl, right? That's usually how that goes when you end up with a brand on your back.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. No, I mean, it's I'll never forget when we were in off season one day, and I went, what in the hell is that? And of course I got the story, and the beauty of Ty has always been very honest. He just threw it out there, and so I tell you what, I'm glad that tattoos and branding and stuff like that wasn't popular in Port Arthur, Texas, because I'd probably have a few tattoos all over me because we would have been stupid enough to do that.
Great. He's Ty Unfiltered, we call him. He is without boundary when it comes to what he'll talk about on the radio.
Yeah.
Not just to us. He'll say it to everybody on the radio, which is great. Hey, Coach, you went back-to-back 3 times. I mean, 3-time, of your 7 titles. So you know what great culture is like, because that's different players. That's different, leaders and quarterbacks to go 3 in a row. We've heard Steve Sarkisian this offseason talk about this team here at Texas starting to sound like his team, starting to sound like when he hears them talk and communicate. I'm assuming you can relate to that. And what does that mean to you when you hear Sark saying that this being around this team, they sound like a team that I'm coaching? That has to resonate with you.
Absolutely, it does, and I really think part of being able to do that and to live up to what the expectations are. And I mean, Rod, it doesn't matter what year it is. It doesn't matter whether it's 1981 through 85 or the years that you played in the early 2000s or now. I mean, the expectations are there.
Yep.
And you better embrace them, and you better learn how to play with that bullseye. And what we always told our kids is, people always talk about, the big games, the rivalry games. To me, the way that you put a good streak together and win a whole bunch of games during a year is respect your opponents and the people that you play. I think sometimes when someone's, playing someone that everybody in town through whatever it is saying, oh, hell, y'all going to run half a hundred on them by halftime. What that makes you, if you buy into that, makes you soft, and it makes your practice habits kind of dwindle a little bit. And to me, you're either getting better or you're getting worse, and you can't rock along through your season and go, hell, we got 2 gimme games in the middle of the season. We can just kind of take it off. And your coaching staff can't say, well, we're going to find this time to like play a bunch of freshmen in this game. You got to beat the hell out of people you're supposed to beat the hell out of, And I just think everybody talks about the Texas OU game and A&M coming back on schedule. That stuff takes care of itself. To me, the Horns have not had a problem winning the big games against big people and playing well. Sometimes you got to beat the people you're supposed to beat, and you got to play really well while you're doing that. So that's my take.
Yeah, it's a great point, Coach. I agree with that. Yeah, I love that.
Well, it's kind of an oxymoron that beat the hell out of them, but it's because you respect them, then you're better. That's why you beat the hell out of them, because you're respecting their ability that they could beat you on any given day.
Absolutely, Eric. I mean, to me, if you rock along and you're playing someone that you ought to beat, and the final score is 27-17. To me, that's disrespect, because you disrespected them because you probably didn't. Your work ethic during the week wasn't up to par, And I know that's kind of a crazy way of thinking, but what that does is keep a team, and that was kind of our means to our madness in the three-peat, is that we never got. I'll tell you this: in my whole time at Westlake, I feel like we lost one game in the entire time at Westlake that we should have won. Wow. After that one loss, no one ever beat us that we should absolutely beat. And I think, that's because we stayed consistent, throughout, didn't ever let them take a week off. After a while, it's just the kids do that. But I've got 5 kids that played for me at Westlake that are playing at Texas now. And, I'm getting awesome feedback from them about the locker room.
Yeah. That is great. Hey, Coach, I want to ask you, because, Sark has been – he always says you get what you emphasize, and he's been emphasizing situational football, playing your best football in key moments, critical moments, down the stretch, fourth quarter, game on the line. Yeah. What, as a coach – how do you construct practices? What do you do to make sure you as a coach emphasize that and try to, improve players' situational awareness? Like, what do you do as a coach to improve that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it starts in spring football practice where there's something every day. Whether, for us at the high school at Westlake, it was I mean, we've got certain days that we can full contact, certain days we can thump, but even if we're in a thump mode, we can work, we can work red zone, but every single day. And it's just the emphasis on it and explain, here's the situation. There's a minute and 15 seconds left to go in the game. This team is up by 7. So y'all got the ball. What are we going to do with it? So put it in those situations. Coming out, we used to do that. I don't know that we ever got ourselves in 21 my last year on our own 4-yard line. But I tell you what, we worked on it a bunch. And I always, I tell people all the time. I said, when we would, through my time at Westlake, there was probably 6 occasions that we had the ball inside our own 4-yard line, first and 10 on your own 1-yard line. Well, I always told our players, I said, guys, that's the only opportunity you have to break a state record. And they look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, the only way you can throw a 99-yard touchdown pass is be on the 1-yard line.
I love that.
That's a glass half full, Coach.
And we did it twice during the 8 years. We did it twice
Wow.
during those 8 years. Do a 99-yard touchdown. So you kind of look at it like that, and then but just you got to, in those situations, you got to talk about it. To me, you got to get stories about it. I'm a history major, and so I love to tell stories about the good things that have happened in football and maybe the mistakes that have happened in football. And I think from week to week, you can point out what happened in this college game. You go, hey, this team came from behind, they were down 21 and came all the way back, and we're real big on also when we get, it doesn't matter whether we're winning by 21 or we're down by 21, is staying in, what we did at the high school. I don't think there's any magic to it. We stayed in 4-minute increments of a game.
Oh yeah.
Literally, when you start a game, we're gonna play for this 4 minutes. Okay, so what's going to happen in this 4 minutes of the game? Okay, we kicked off to them. We've got to go when we kick off. There's a win or a loss to be had.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got the ball. They've got the ball first. Our defense is on the field. Okay, there is a win or a loss. We go 3 and out. Guess what? We just won. We got a goal on the goal board. All right. Now we make them punt. Well, we get the ball inside the 50-yard line. Guess what? We just hit another one. All right. Now the offense goes out and we score on the first possession. So, one of the things that I think that always helped keep us grounded and focused in a game is that we have a goal board at Westlake High School that we absolutely live by. And I think sometimes I've been in coaching a long time and I've probably been on a staff before that's had goal boards that they're just really pretty and they're fancy and no one ever talks about them, but at Westlake, that's the one that, you hear our kids on the sideline going, goal board, goal board, goal board.
I still think about it, Coach.
For everybody.
Ty still thinks about it.
4 plays.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard you when you were doing those great weekly visits
stuff
with Craig Way here on the Horn, and it was always must listen radio to learn more about football. But that goal board, can you describe that a little bit more, because it's such a way to break things down that football simplify it. These are the goals we have. If we and I know you would put numbers on. If we do this, as you just said, we do this 8 times, we're going to win this football game. What were the main goals that you would have on the whiteboard?
All right. Well, not necessarily in this order. Score on the first possession of the game or of the second half. If you do either one of those, you get you check that one off. Never have a 3 and out. That's a lofty goal.
Yeah.
We never want a 3 and out. Okay. So that's let's see. No turnovers. I mean, I tell our kids. I said I've seen goal boards before, but people go. No more than 2 turnovers. Well, hell, a turnover will get you beat. So no turnovers. No unforced penalties. No pre-snap penalties.
Okay.
At all. We don't coach our kids to not have any penalties. I think you're gonna, So score every time from the red zone. You know, like with our quarterbacks, I tell you, we've been blessed with some kickers at Westlake, and if we get inside the 20-yard line, guess what? We've got 3 points, guys. Don't, you know, score every time from the red zone. So there's 7 or 8 of them, 9 of them on offense. And it is absolutely, Aaron, and I've looked back through the years at South Lake, the years everywhere I've been as a head coach. Offensively, there's 9 goals. Defensively, there's 9 goals. Kicking game, there's 7 goals. Okay, so through our years at Westlake and all the other places, if the offense achieves 6 or more, the defense achieves 6 or more of their goals, and the special teams achieves 4 or more of those 7, and we don't turn the ball over more than 1 time, we're undefeated.
Wow.
Never lost.
Wow.
Never lost a game.
Well, that makes sense. Process into
That is
performance.
fantastic. I'm writing that stat down, Coach. That's great.
And it's not, when I started doing the research on it, I was like, gosh almighty. And then when you get a bunch of kids to believe in it, and it's all stuff that has nothing to do with, you know, like on our offensive goal board, we don't have throw for 300 and rush for, you know, 175 or 200.
Yeah. The team goals.
Me, that's a quarterback. That's a quarterback goal.
Yeah.
You know. The other one that's really important is to have is to score as a unit, 75% or better as a unit. Meaning, you know, what we do is, I mean, you just basically, it's easy. You get the call sheet at the end of the game. You go, okay, it's 1st and 10, we got 5 yards. 2nd and 5, we got 7 yards. Check. Every chance you have to move the football. The other one that's I think really important is that we want to achieve 50% on 3rd down. I think the NFL 33% is like winning football in the NFL. 50% on 3rd down. So all of those things, and they're not easy goals to get. They're really not. And but
it leads to winning.
It is definitely a blueprint. It's a blueprint for winning. You know, and when you get the kids, when they believe in that, I mean, hell, you could probably tell them that it may not be true, and they'd still go run through the wall about it.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, but they believe, and it's all stuff that's going to win. I mean, you just think about it. If you don't turn the ball over, if you score every time in the red zone, you never have a 3 and out. Boom, boom, boom. And even if you get close to some of those, and you catch up with another one in another area.
Oh yeah.
You're playing winning football. And so when you on Saturday morning, you can look at it and you go, I know exactly why we won by 40.
Yeah.
I know exactly why we only won by 7. Or I damn sure know why we got beat.
Yep.
You know, it's going to tell the tale right now.
Well, and as you said, Coach, they're not individual achievements. It's a team thing, right? To not go 3 and out takes everybody. To score every time in the red zone takes everybody, and that's not, you know. So I got to do my job to achieve that goal, and it puts it in a simplified perspective. And it led to a lot of winning for our guest Todd Dodge. 7 state championships, 3 in a row at Westlake from 19 to 21. And as you said, Coach, you got 5 guys playing for Texas right now, and hearing good things out of that locker room. Do you keep up with Sam up there in Indianapolis? I know they've drafted a rookie, but he's still working his way with the Colts in the National Football League.
Yeah, Sam, he's still alive, everybody in Austin. You know, I talked to him last week, and, everybody, the ultra competitor, and he's grinding along. You know, he's taking inventory of things that he can control.
That's right.
And so, you know, who knows? You know, I mean, he said, Coach, I'm just every day, and I'm doing the best. He got to play, threw the ball 9 times, completed, I think, 7 or 8 of 9 for 72 yards, and you know, the other day, text me. That's all you can do. You know, you're also, you know, this, Rod. He's putting tape on for anybody else also.
That's exactly right.
Okay. I've got Chase Daniel, who this may have been his last, but he played 14 or 15 years in the league. And he's the highest paid backup quarterback in NFL history because he's such a professional. You know, and people always say, well, how'd you stay along? He said, I was humble and I carried the clip. He said, I basically caddied for the guy who's a starter, and I just took care of him.
That's right. And go in when you need to. That was Drew Brees for a long time in New Orleans, and he was a heck of a player at Missouri too, and played for you in high school in South Lake Carroll.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, he's great, and so I hope for Sam that Sam can have a similar, experience that Chase had.
Yep.
Well, Coach, appreciate the extended visit and all the stories and the tales and how to win football games.
Great
You just kind of
stuff,
mapped
Coach.
it out right there because you certainly backed it up, and I think we learned a lot from you, and our audience did too. Thank you, Todd. Glad
Thanks,
to hear
Coach.
you're doing well.
Thank y'all. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em, Coach.
There you go. Back here on the Sports Complex, here on the Horn, playing some Orange Juice Jones. Doing our rain dance here on the Horn this week is our theme for Sports Complex. Musical theme is rain because we could really use some here in Austin. Join the conversation. 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line. We're asking you today, which NFL coach is on the biggest hot seat going into the season? Got a couple answers so far. Has to be Mike McCarthy. We also has, as a Cowboys fan, I'm ready to move on from Dak, even though I know we'll fire Mike McCarthy. I know all you people, and Steve also has Staley should have been fired last year from Longhorn and Lubbock. I agree. First of all, Staley should have been fired last year. I agree with you on that. The thing with Dak, I get nobody likes him. There isn't 30 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There isn't one. Cooper Rush isn't one. He's just not. I know everybody wants him to be one. He's not. We know he doesn't have the arm talent to be one. And he'd be figured out in 3 weeks, and you'd be like, oh, man, can we please get someone decent? I get Dak's not the guy, but if you want Dak to move on, you have to get another quarterback first. You can't just guess and hope to get one. Like, do you want to try and get Baker Mayfield? Or do you want to trade for Trey Lance? I don't think they're giving up Trey Lance because they know how much how much security they need at the quarterback position. So I don't think I just don't know who you move on from to go, because it's not Cooper Rush. I know everybody wants it to be. It's not. Now, they did say they're giving Will Grier a really hard look in the preseason game this Saturday. It means Will Grier is going to play a lot of this game, the next preseason game for the Cowboys. Mike McDaniels, yes, another clipboard holder for Belichick that failed at running a team. Yeah, Mike McDaniels, yes, you're a Raiders fan. You know he is terrible. He is awful. You also said, I'd rather have Deion Sanders run the team, and that's not a compliment. Yeah, I mean, anyone's better than Mike McDaniel. I tried to go over to the Raiders, and it's awful. It's just awful. Join the conversation. Which NFL coach is on the biggest hot seat going into the season? 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line. Hit us up there. When we come back, we will get into some sound from some Texas football players. They were talking to the media yesterday. So a couple running backs, a safety, and we will get to that when we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260 on hornfm.com and the Horn app. Hour 2 back here on the Sports Complex. Coming up in a little bit, Jared Sandler, play-by-play and studio anchor for the Texas Rangers radio broadcast, is going to come on. We'll talk a little bit about what the Rangers have going forward, Bruce Bochy, how the fans at Globe Life are stepping up this season. We'll get into that. I'll talk to him at 6:30. Till then, got some player audio from Keelan Robinson, Jonathan Brooks, and Jaron Thompson. They all spoke to the media yesterday. We cut up some audio for you. And yesterday we played you some of the Keelan Robinson talking about the special teams. We talked about how important it is for a team to have pride in everything you do and what that meant to the special teams. I will tell you, though, in Sark's offense, something we saw in the bowl game, which I don't put too much emphasis on any bowl game, that isn't a playing for something bowl game, that this the run game for this offense needs to be at a different level it was in that game. Now, Jonathan Brooks didn't play very much. Jaden Blue didn't play. And Cedric Baxter wasn't even on the team yet. So it was mainly Keelan Robinson, which Keelan Robinson can do a lot of things, but he's not your every down back. We know what he can do. He can step out in space. But Keelan Robinson, when he was speaking to the media, what we want to look at is what is the running back room starting to shape up as? And kind of what we've seen from Sark, what he's been saying, is this is a running back room where we're going to use guys and try and use them to their strengths. We're going to try and put guys in situations where they can win. And when the media was talking to the players, that's somewhat what we got from some of these players. Here's Keelan Robinson on the running back competition that happened during the scrimmage.
Saturday was a good day, I think, for the entire team. Offense, defense, special teams, everybody was able to get their work in. I felt like my day was a cool day. I always expect to go out there and put my best foot forward, and I just try to do that every time I'm on the field. So, yeah, the running back room is looking pretty good, though. Everybody in there can play in their own way, can provide a different kind of spark to the team. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Keelan Robinson, not too worried about it. Went in, did okay. Running back room looked good, which is what you want to hear. But you expect to hear something more. You hear this a lot, and there was George Pickens from Georgia was talking about one of the reasons he didn't go to Alabama was he wasn't going to get a play right away. Doesn't seem to be as big of a factor for this Texas team. Whatever the coaches are selling them, they seem to be buying into about finding their reps and finding their space. Here's Keelan Robinson when he was asked about how many reps, and does Keelan Robinson, now that he is the elder back and been there the longest, does he worried about getting as many reps and as many targets as he can get?
No, I mean, the way we see, everybody's going to eat. Like, it doesn't matter how many bites somebody takes, everybody's going to eat in some kind of way. And the better we are as a team, as a unit, the better everybody looks individually. So everybody had their own shine. That's the way we look at it.
So this is the running back motto, and we'll get into Jonathan Brooks talking about something similar to this, that it isn't really, hey, man, look, everybody, no one is set out to be, I'm going to be the feature back. Now, we haven't heard from C.J. Baxter. Maybe Baxter is a guy who wants to be the feature back. But from what we've heard from Jonathan Brooks, what we've heard from Keelan Robinson, it doesn't seem like this offense is set up to have a feature back this season. Now, I think you're going to need to find somebody that is your reliable back, who can hold on to the ball, who can make those big plays for you. And you're hoping that it is Jonathan Brooks. You're hoping that Baxter is going to step into that role and start to line up behind him, and you can have a 1-2 running back core right there, with Keelan Robinson being your change of pace back and stepping out and catching some passes. And that's what Keelan Robinson really does well. We know Keelan Robinson in space is insanely dangerous. So when he was asked about how he works on his receiving, this is what Keelan Robinson had to say to the media yesterday. When you talk about, hey, well, there's not going to be enough reps for everyone on this team, it's just a running back. Well, you maybe have to step out and catch the passes. Here's Keelan Robinson talking about working on receiving.
I feel like I was just able to show my receiving skills a lot more last year, being behind B. Rowe. The carries might not have always been there, but there was a lot of ways for me to make plays, let it be special teams, running the ball sometimes, or in the receiving game. And I just plan on continuing to build on that this year and through my career also with running the ball and playing special teams. So, yeah.
Yeah, Keelan Robinson is ready to be an even better receiver this year. Looked great as a receiver last year, could be able to find open space. And I think that's something Sark's going to try and use a lot. as somebody who doesn't necessarily like the traditional run game as much. Now, he had Bijan Robinson, he had Roschon Johnson. You have to run the ball, and you have to run the ball at any point to open up, get that D-line to commit, get the linebackers to step up a little bit more, get them to focus on running back so play action plays can work. If there's no threat of a run game, then play action's out the window, and that's a great way to get some space on your wide receivers and get a deep play downfield. And we know Sark loves the long ball, so we know we want to have play action as an option. So you have to run the ball some. But Keelan Robinson, as somebody to say, look, I want to get some reps at running back, but not necessarily what it was in the bowl game, not what it was in the Alamo Bowl. I need to get some reps, a few carries, but more receiving. That's what he's been working on. Then Keelan Robinson was asked about Jonathan Brooks. Here's what he had to say about Jonathan Brooks.
JB has shown me what he could always do. I mean, since JB the guy here, he's always been a natural runner of the football. I mean, you could look at his high school stats to know that. But he's just getting better and better each day, honestly. He came a long way in pass pro. Like, we actually out there popping folks now. I'm comfortable with anybody pass blocking at this point. I mean, pretty much all of us, we take a lot of pride in that. So, he's just coming in every day and just doing this thing. That's what we expect out of JB. That's what he's always done.
Love to see that. Love to hear doing well in pass protection, stepping up. I know that was something that they've talked about with JT Sanders as well, is trying to really emphasize the blocking part of the game. We know that Jordan Whittington has done it at an amazing level at the wide receiver position, but it seems to be something that Sark has pushed down to his player coaches, and the position coaches are really starting to push this, and it's working. And the mentality of, hey, man, it's all for this bigger goal is starting to come out, and we're seeing the seeds that have been sowed for the last few years of, no, you need to be able to block to get on the playing field. No, you need to be able to play special teams to get on the playing field. You need to do those types of things to show that you can be there. We're seeing that now in more and more of these player interviews. We're seeing people talk about the greater good. And so you need to have some humility, but you need to have some hubris as well, and you need to push to be the bigger guy. Jonathan Brooks speaks to the media. Now, Jonathan Brooks, younger guy, hasn't done a ton of interviews. You can tell through these, so a lot of these clips are pretty short, but we'll get through a few of them just to let people know what Jonathan Brooks sounds like, give you a viewpoint of who should be your starting running back and your main, maybe not full feature back, but he should be getting the majority of carries, at least, for the Longhorns this season. And here's Jonathan Brooks, and they asked him, what's different about last year's team to this year's team? Because last year's team, they asked him, if he minded sitting behind Roschon and Bijan and not really playing, coming out and being such a high recruit. Said it in mind, but, there are differences that this team talks about with this season. Here's Jonathan Brooks talking about what's different this season.
I think just the commitment, like everyone's getting extra work. Everyone's out there. We have a lot more energy in practice, and I think everyone's just coming together as a team, knowing what we can do this year.
And that goes into what he says when you kind of ask him what's driving him this season. What's your goals for this season? Do you need the reps? Do you need to get the touchdowns? What do you need out of this season? Here's what Jonathan Brooks said.
I just want to show what I can do. But like I said earlier, I just want to win. That's my biggest. What I want to do this year is just win. Whether that's me scoring, whether that's me blocking, whether that's me on the sideline cheering my teammates on, whatever it is, I just want to win.
That's it. That's the attitude you have to have, and that's the attitude they're clearly preaching behind the scenes. I just want to win. Now, you do need guys to, in game, find that next gear. So you're going to have to, when you start to get into, this is great for training camp, but when we start to get in games, the position coaches are going to need to start going to some of these players that are starting to show out and starting to be the next guy and go, hey, you need to go have a statement game this year. You need to go have a statement game. We're playing Iowa State. You got to go get it. You need a statement game. We need you, Jonathan Brooks, to step up and have a 150-yard game. We need you to blow past some people, put your shoulder down. He talks a lot in this interview as well about working on his pad height was one of the things, trying to get his balance better, trying to get better carries and better runs, and all the fundamentals are great. Blocking's better, pass pro's better, all that's great. But you are going to need to have that ego at a certain point in some of these games when the other team starts trash talking you, when the other team starts going, and when things aren't going necessarily your way, and all you want to do is win, but coach calls 5-6 pass plays in a row, and you get 6 pass plays in a row, 2 3-and-outs. Now is when you need to be a little bit cockier and be like, oh, no. As soon as I touch that ball, we're going to win because I'm going to win the game. So as much as this is great right now, once you get to the season, you need to start having that little bit more of an ego. Not a ton. You need to have team first. I'm all for team first. But you need to know, I want to be great. I don't want to be good. I want to be great. And to be great, you have to want to be great. You don't have to want to just win. You have to say, I want to be the best player on this field at all times. I know that Quinn Ewers is the guy. I know that. But I want to go be the best player on this field right now. You need that. And so when we hear Jonathan Brooks talking about, man, all I want to do is win, that's great. But that needs to turn into, I want to win because I win ball games. Now, that doesn't mean you need to ask for, hey, you don't need to go to Sark and start demanding the ball. It doesn't mean you need to take away reps from other guys. But it does mean that you need to know that every time you touch that ball, you need to do something special, and you need to go out there and you need to hold on to the ball, and you need to take care of the ball, and you need to run the play correctly, and you need to play that block out. And whatever it is you're doing, do it the best way you can, but have that ego to have it. Jonathan Brooks also talked about the offensive line, and what we'll get into right now, talking a little bit more about the offensive line and defensive line. Those have stepped up a ton, and a lot of reports that we're getting into. Sark knew going to the SEC, you have to build your lines. You win and lose games on the offensive and defensive line. Here's Jonathan Brooks talking about the offensive line.
I think just the hunger to want to block, like, you know what I'm saying? They come together where everyone's, like I said, the whole team is just really close. And I think I can just see it in them that they want to win just as bad as everybody else.
That's what he says when they ask him, how is the offensive line, what's different that they're playing? He couldn't put into words about what exactly was different, but they want it. They want it. And so then they asked him about the D-line. He said the O-line is going out there and they want it bad. Well, now you got to practice against the D-line, and that's one of the best D-lines in the country, are saying, or at least in the Big 12. We'll say one of the best D-lines in the Big 12. Lower down expectations a little. We're going to the SEC next year. It'll be even better next year. But one of the best D-lines in the Big 12, and you get to practice against them every day. Well, how does that help you in iron sharpens iron?
It helps us just to know that our it makes us better, because in a game, I'm not going to say it's going to be easier, but in a game, we might not face a D-line like ours, so it's helping us in practice right now, being that it's so cloggy. But, you know, everybody's working, doing what they need to do.
There you go. That is doing what you need to do. Everybody's working hard, and that D-line making us better. D-line, O-line, that is where the games are won and lost. Jaron Thompson also spoke to the media yesterday, and one of the lines he had that got everybody going was when they asked him about the D-line.
Man, D-line is looking nasty, mean, nasty, and violent.
That's good.
Yeah, they making our job in the back end 10 times easier, I promise.
So we know that the offensive line is looking for it this year. They're looking for those blocks. They want to hit somebody. And we know that the defensive line is mean, nasty, and violent. It's a little bit different than what we've been hearing in Texas for the last few years. So you love to hear the O&D line. And what does Jaron Thompson say when they go back and they say, okay, they're mean, nasty, and violent? What does that mean? What do you mean when you say mean, nasty, and violent about this D-line? Here's Jaron Thompson.
Man, I just was watching film last night, watching how I was in the post, and they closed every gap. And you know, when you post defense, I mean, we have every gap covered. So they were just making our job easier. As a post safety, I was just deep. I didn't even have to come down and fit nowhere, just extra. So just them blowing things, taking twofers and taking gaps, that's great. That's going to make our job easier on the back end for sure.
Mean, nasty, and violent. That right there is exactly what you want to hear. Mean, nasty, and violent. That's what you want to hear about your O-line and your D-line. Mean, nasty, and violent. Jaron Thompson saying that. Now, Jaron Thompson also talked more about the DB room, how the young guys are stepping up, how he doesn't even know who's going to be playing at what position out of DBs, because he doesn't know, because those battles are so intense in practice right now. But he does know one thing, that this team, one of the things they struggled with last year was turnovers. And this season, he wants to step up, and this defense is making a point to try and get some more turnovers going this season.
Oh yeah, we're taking way more pride in the turnovers now. I know myself, I missed a lot of opportunities that I should have made. So that's one thing. But even the whole staff, like the whole defensive staff, we're taking pride in getting the ball. We know we need the ball back. We've got the guys to do it. And it's just a lot of it just getting effort and practicing it. Like I said, the days that we're not tackling, we're working the ball. And when you practicing something like that, it doesn't surprise you in the game. It's just It's natural.
Doesn't surprise you in the game. You practice. You're ready to go for the turnovers. And taking the time to go, hey, man, if we're not in pads, then we need to be able to go out there and work on something else that gives us a game-changing ability and working on those turnovers. Having Michael Huff there at practices to help him out, to have Derek Johnson show him how to punch the ball out. All of those things are going to be able to help take this defense in another step forward, where at Texas, having a defense multiple years in a row that is doing well doesn't seem to be a given anymore. So if PK can get this defense going the way it needs to be, and they progress again this season, they raise their rate of pass rush and more pressure on the quarterback. If they raise the rate of turnovers and they don't allow the big plays because they have that focus.
We don't care about anyone else. We're here. This is us. This is what we have. That's what we know. Like, we're brought into this. Like, it don't matter about what other teams are doing, because we're doing it here. And that's the biggest thing our mindset is like the John Wick mentality. We don't care how everyone thinks about us. We're going to still do ours. You're going to have to face us too.
That John Wick mentality. It has gone from Quinn Ewers to the defense, this entire team. They keep saying they feel the most like a team has been in years. They feel so together as a team, and they have that it's us against the world mentality. They are no longer looking at it through the Texas eyes of we are in Texas, we should be beating everybody. No, they are looking at it as we are John Wick, and we are about to go beat some butts out there and win some football games. That is the different mentality. The mentality of no longer playing the victim. You can be the underdog and not be the victim. That's John Wick. That's what they're saying. Hey, man, we're going to get counted out, but we're going to come in there and show big. Love what you hear from Jaron Thompson. Excited for this next football season when you see the defense and how much better this defense sounds of knowing what's happening. And he mentions in his press conference too, or in his media availability, he mentions about having the third year. And you see him say it as, not a lot of these guys get that opportunity anymore. If you have a good defensive coordinator, they tend to bounce out pretty quickly. And if they're a bad one and you don't win games, and especially, with the record that Texas had the last 2 years, it would have been pretty easy for Sark to get rid of Kwiatkowski and change up the system. But when you hear these guys talking about being in the system for 3 straight years and what they're going to be able to do on defense, and now that they're not so much every year trying to work in and relearn the system, they can work on things like turnovers. They can work on different parts of their game and elevate the game as a whole to another level. It's something very fun to watch and to see from this defense. I know there's going to be another scrimmage on Saturday, and we know Jaron Thompson also said, of course the defense won. Of course the defense won. This Texas team, they're going to be very explosive on offense, but this defense is going to need to hold down because we know what Sark does in the third and fourth quarter. And you're going to need Pete Kwiatkowski to come out there and get some big stops. You're going to need it because we know what the third and fourth quarter is for Texas. You know that you're going to give the ball up sometimes, and that defense is going to have to hold. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Jared Sandler, play-by-play studio anchor for the Texas Rangers Radio Network. He's got some good things to say. Always enjoy talking to Jared Sandler about the Texas Rangers. You can talk to us. 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line. 512-337-3776. We're asking you today, which NFL coach is on the biggest hot seat going into next season? Give us an answer there on the Specs text line, and we'll come back with Jared Sandler from the Texas Rangers radio team right here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, 101.9 AM 1260 on the Horn FM app and hornfm.com. Cantina Hotline. You hear him doing the Rangers broadcast, and we are right here on the Horn, and you hear him across the Rangers radio network. Jared Sandler, you can follow him on Twitter at Jared Sandler, and he joins us right now. Jared, how are you doing today? Welcome to the Sports Complex.
Hey, Patrick, thanks so much for having me. Doing great. Enjoying a nice off day with the Rangers sitting in first place. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the Rangers sitting in first. And, I mean, it's been crazy. The AL West has been nuts. All the Rangers, Astros, and Mariners, all 7-3 in their last 10 games. Basically, no real movement is happening because everybody's winning. How's the team feeling at this point in the season? This is, not a ground that a lot of the Rangers have been on before. Some new additions that came from teams that weren't winning, but they seem to be handling their business just fine in the second half.
Yeah, I was asked the other day if I'm noticing anything different in terms of, their dispositions, and, the answer is no. And I think in a good way. They all know that, they're playing meaningful baseball. They all understand the significance of wins and losses at this time of the year, but you show up and the guys who typically play ping pong 4 hours before the game are playing ping pong. The guys who typically do crosswords are doing crosswords. The guys who are usually keeping to themselves are keeping to themselves. And the guys who are, walking around the clubhouse, talking to everyone, cracking jokes, or, they're doing that. There's no change in behavior, change in personality, which is good because, the minute you start to make these games bigger than what they really are, the minute you psych yourself out, especially for the guys on this roster who have not been in this situation before. And thankfully there are, enough guys who can, help lead the way or maybe look out for some missteps that, could take place, things that they experienced when they first went through this. But the Rangers play on the field is obviously ticked up a notch, but, I think while they understand they're playing meaningful baseball, I don't think that they're, all of a sudden going about things in different ways because they feel like they're supposed to be more serious or anything like that.
Yeah, and they also get the benefit of playing at Globe Life where they're 42-21. They're number one in MLB right now at a home record. And I've seen you've been posting online about how the groups at Globe Life are getting rowdier and rowdier. What's the atmosphere at Globe Life like now that's getting these Rangers to be the best team in MLB at home?
Yeah, well, I don't know that I love admitting this, but there's an A&M fraternity a few weeks ago that came out, and they took over a portion of one of the sections out in the outfield, section 133, and they were just kind of loud and rowdy the whole game. It was, sort of like a college student section, and that's great because you don't get that a ton in pro sports. And, to be quite frank, as is understandable for a team that hasn't won in 6 years, while the Rangers fans are doing a great job of showing up, I don't think they're used to cheering for, a winning team. It's been a while. They're out of practice. So, might get 38, 39,000, 40,000 in the ballpark. But, I want these fans cheering and making noise and being rowdy and chanting or, whatever it is they want to do. You don't need to sit there and golf clap. And so, that A&M fraternity did a great job of changing the mood. And I think it gave some other Rangers fan groups ideas to replicate that. And so the other day there was a Rangers fan group in conjunction with a big Rangers fan individually who got together and they organized a buyout of that section 133. And they were chanting and hollering all game. And it was awesome. Players noticed, the coaching staff noticed, the front office noticed, and hopefully we get more of that. Again, when you're not winning, it's tough to develop fan traditions. It's tough to really encourage and follow through on fan engagement and atmosphere. But the Rangers are winning, and they're winning in a big way. And it'd be awesome for some of those traditions here in this new ballpark to develop. And, it'd be great if this ballpark was known as, one of the rowdier, louder ballparks in baseball.
Speaking of Jared Sandler from the Rangers radio broadcast, Jared, so you'd have it. You guys are building the culture. You get a new stadium, and, the team clearly went out and tried to spend some money. They add Bruce Bochy, which seems to be a missing piece of getting this team on the right path. But then they still are spending money. You bring in Max Scherzer. How has the addition of Max Scherzer been for is he dealing with it well, and is the team dealing with it well?
Well, it seems like he's dealing with it well if his performance is any indication. He said that, he feels like now going through something like this is is easy for him because he's been through it before. You know, he's been traded before. He's been traded in season before, which is obviously a different dynamic than getting traded in the off season. And, you know, I don't mean this in any sort of disrespectful way, but, you know, a lot of players just will tell you that, especially if they're married with kids, it's kind of on their wives. You know, their wives are the MVPs here, letting them focus on baseball. So for Max, who's got 4 kids under the age of 5, his wife Erica has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting with the transition from New York down to DFW, and also with their home in Florida. So you know, there's so much that goes into a successful season at the major league level, and when you got a guy like Max Scherzer who's got a hectic family situation, getting traded in the middle of the year, you know, they need help. They don't do it themselves. So credit to the real heroes out there, the wives. But yeah, he's been great, and this pitching staff has been great since the deadline, and the rotation's been great all year, to be honest with you. You know, they have the number 1 ERA in Major League Baseball. The starting rotation does, and the Rangers have never had that. It's been a long time since they finished in the top 10. Frankly, it's been a long time since they finished in the top 15 in that category. This is obviously an organization that's been more defined by, you know, their bats than their arms. But, you know, this year they've got the number 1 lineup in baseball when it comes to runs per game, and they've got the number 1 rotation in baseball when it comes to ERA.
There you go. And I mean, that's with DeGrom going down earlier in the season. Imagine if he's still there. I mean, they may not make the Scherzer trade, but in the fact that they you know, to have Days and DeGrom, that'll be coming back next season, hopefully dealing at a high level. That just gives you hope for the future. Speaking of DeGrom, though, and a couple of injuries, we know Jonah Heim just returned. Is there any update on Young or Eovaldi?
Yeah, Eovaldi threw a bullpen the other day, the equivalent of 2 innings worth of work, and you know, he's just continuing to build back up. I think the hope is that, you know, perhaps we'll see Nathan Eovaldi right around the end of the month, beginning of September. It'd be great if, you know, the Rangers could get him back for that series against the Astros. But, you know, he's moving in the right direction. I think the Rangers are just, you know, trying to play this properly. They're not going to rush it. And then with Josh Young, there's really no update just because he's still all bandaged up. I think, you know, he is progressing. I think the hope and expectation is still that he'll rejoin the team before the end of the regular season, and then maybe have a little bit of cushion between the end of the regular season and hopefully the playoffs beyond that. But there's no real, like, concrete update with Josh.
There you go. Jared Sandler joining us, doing play-by-play and some studio work there for the Texas Rangers. So one of the issues before the trade deadline, one of the weakest things, because we know they have the bats, we know they have the starting lineup, was the bullpen. You bring in Aroldis Chapman, brings in some other guys. And then Martin Perez is now moving into the bullpen. What's the confidence level for this team in the bullpen when you're getting into later in the season and when you get to the playoffs? Is the confidence level kind of growing? I know Chapman has been doing pretty well, and I mean, he's another one of these additions that, like Scherzer, some people may not get along with him, but they seem to be doing just fine in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, and I think all of Chappie's teammates get along with him here in Texas, and I think, you know, the Rangers did a lot of due diligence, you know, when they acquired him from the Royals, and, you know, he had glowing reviews there. You know, I can't speak to, obviously, past years. I know that he was probably a little more well-liked in New York than what the media portrayed, and, you know, that wasn't the greatest ending to his time there, but it's easy to like a guy who throws the way he throws, and he has been outstanding. And the additions of Chapman and Chris Stratton have been huge for this bullpen. And so, you know, I don't know what the confidence level of you know, those guys individually might be, but I can tell you that there's a lot more confidence just from a viewing standpoint that when they've got a lead and they need to protect it over the final 3 innings, that they'll be able to get it done. You know, even a guy like Josh Forrest, who appears to be healthy again, and I know he gave up a home run last night, but over his last 8 innings, he's allowed 1 run on 2 hits. You know, he's been outstanding. So between Spores and Chapman and Will Smith, you throw in Chris Stratton, what he's been able to do. Brock Burke has been really good in the roles in which they've utilized him. And, you know, Jose Leclerc maybe hasn't earned the trust to be a high leverage guy, but you still need guys to get you outs when you're down by a run, 2 runs, 3 runs, what have you, and, you know, give you a chance to come back into games. And Jose Leclerc's been good in those situations. So, this is not the best bullpen in baseball by any means, but it's a bullpen that is definitely way more competitive than it was a month, 2 months ago.
Yeah, we all know in baseball, bullpens can come and go by a series, by a game. You can watch a bullpen completely dissolve, and you lose three of your best closers or three of your best relievers basically in a series when they give up some big home runs. So it's good to add depth, what the Rangers have done. I know that also when you get to this point of the season, it's where MLB teams, especially that are in the hunt for a World Series, start to turn over every rock to find any player. The Rangers bring in Josh Harrison on a minor league contract. Do you think there's any plans for Josh Harrison, or are they just trying to kick the tread on kick the tires?
Yeah, I think it's more of a depth thing. If something were to happen to Josh Smith or Ezekiel Duran while they're awaiting Josh Young's return, then they can turn to a veteran who I don't know that necessarily would play every day, but could then fill that roster spot. Someone who has been there, but yeah, I don't know. It would not surprise me if Josh Harrison wasn't called up. I think if he is called up, that probably means something has gone wrong with the health of someone who is getting playing time, or perhaps the return of Josh Young. But I think it's just to make sure you have depth. You don't want to get caught with your pants down, this late in the year when you can't make trades. You want to be able to jump on opportunities like that, in the event that something's needed. It's similar to the Kevin Plawecki situation. The Rangers let him out of his contract yesterday, but they signed him to a minor league deal. I think the thought was that Kevin Plawecki was going to come up and be a third catcher, but when the Rangers acquired Austin Hedges, and now with the health of Jonah Heim, it's just not as necessary. And so I think if things go well for the Rangers, you don't see Josh Harrison. I think if something goes poorly, that's when they might turn to Josh Harrison. And if that's the case, hopefully he can fill a role in whatever role he's asked to fill.
There you go. Jared Sandler joined us. I won't take up too much more of your time. I do want to talk to you about one last thing, though, really. Bruce Bochy, the change in this team, you see guys playing better. We know Marcus Semien last year had some other things on his mind before the season, maybe wasn't fully ready. But when you see what this team looks, their culture, their message, everything that's coming out of this team, what is Bruce Bochy's message to this team in the second half of the season that's keeping them on this upward trend of a lot of young guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, that his message is much different here in the second half than it's been all year, and that's just for them to play together. His big thing this year is just playing as one, and that's, you can throw out any cliche and whatnot, but the messages that he's delivered have been supported by his actions, and these preached fundamentals. And I don't think it's coincidence that this team has become one of the bigger liabilities defensively to one of the best defensive teams in Major League Baseball this year. You forget that these guys, while they're not necessarily learning how to field a ground ball, there are still fundamental things that are a little more advanced to this level, specific to this level, that you need to master. And last year, they just were all out of sorts when it came to that sort of thing. And I just think Bruce Bochy is a guy that, in addition to his ability as a tactician, is someone who is very good at creating that culture without being overbearing. He communicates with guys. He makes every guy feel like they're a part of it. And the whole message about, as one, doing this as one. Well, it's very easy for guys who are in the lineup every day to feel like they're a part of that, quote unquote, as one movement. But I think, there's a reason why this team has excelled when guys have gone down, and you're having to call upon players to maybe step up in a more elevated role, because I think that, even guys who do spend some time on the bench, they still feel engaged. They feel like they're a part of it. And I think Bruce Bochy's communication is a big reason why.
There you go. Jared Sandler here from the Texas Rangers broadcast. I'm going to give you one more real quick before we go. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but there's apparently some Yankees fans that are mad at Rangers fans for doing the roll call at the games. And I think that if there's one thing that can make Astros fans and Rangers fans join together, it's pissing off Yankees fans. So is there any other things is there anything that Astros fans need to start picking up that we can start tormenting Yankees fans and we can join together, at least in our hatred of the Yankees?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I don't want to join together with Astros fans on anything, to be honest with you. So the answer to that's no. I don't hate the Yankees the way people do. I hate the Astros way more. But I do think it's a little silly for Yankees fans to be upset. They should be flattered. It'd be one thing if the Rangers started to play Sweet Caroline after the top of the 8th inning because, you could just pick another song to make your own. But I think roll call is awesome. Clearly fans love it. And, if you really want to be serious about this, you take a step back. All baseball fans should be bought in on things that help improve the sport and the sport experience and the engagement and the entertainment. And fans want to do roll call because they love it, then great. It's not like they're chanting Yankees players' names. And, frankly, I think it'd be really cool if all teams fan bases did something like that. I mean, I think getting fans engaged in games, getting them cheering, getting them making noise so they're not just sipping on wine and eating their cheese, I think is a great thing. And so it was awesome when the fans in Section 133 did roll call. I get why Yankees fans reacted the way they did because I'm not going to sit here and say that Rangers fans wouldn't react that way if the roles were reversed. But if you really want to look at it in a mature fashion and take a step back, it's good for the sport. It's good that there is engagement and there's excitement and activity in the stands. And again, I hope it's something that Rangers fans continue to do, and I hope that all fan bases pick up various traditions or things. The Orioles have the Splash Zone this year out in left center field. I think that's awesome, and it's another team fan base wanted to pick up something where they do something every time their team gets an extra base hit. Yeah, cool. You want to credit the Orioles for being the first ones on board for that. With that, awesome. But the Rangers were the first team a little over a decade ago to do the whole hand signaling when you get a base hit with the claw and antlers movement, and now everyone does that in Major League Baseball. And I don't think the Rangers care too much because if people are going to have fun with something and show some personality, then everyone's better for it.
There you go. Very, very well said there. Jared Sandler does play-by-play studio for the Rangers broadcast. You can hear him right here on the Horn. You can follow him on Twitter, wherever else, at Jared Sandler. Jared, thank you so much for joining us here on the Sports Complex.
Patrick, my pleasure. And again, anti-Astros. Don't want to partner with them in anything.
Love it. Thank you, Jared. Jared Sandler, some great words there. Supporting the game of baseball. Look, I know he may not be an Astros fan, but supporting the game. I'm a big fan of the rivalry, so I'm happy it is back and both teams are playing well. When we come back, we'll wrap things up here for last call. Give us your last text on 512-337-3776 right here on the Horn. 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. All right, time to wrap things up here on the Sports Complex. We actually made it to 7 o'clock for a day. We'll be back off early tomorrow at 6:30 for Rangers on Friday. But we did make it till 7 o'clock tonight. Appreciate everybody playing along on the Specs text line. 512-337-3776 is that number. We were asking you today about who is the NFL coach on the biggest hot seat going into this season. I think Brandon Staley's definitely on that list. Mike McCarthy's on that list. Josh McDaniels is on that list. I have Ron Rivera on my list. If you have another one, send me one before we get off the air. 512-337-3776. For our last call tonight, a couple things for you to check out. If you do, so Astros are off, Rangers are off tonight. So not a lot on the Cleveland Eagles game. I believe just began on NFL Network. You can check that out. Make sure to look for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I don't know what he's done so far in the first 20 minutes, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson, starting quarterback for the Browns right now. He's a guy you need to look out for on the Browns. If Deshaun Watson, I know they gave him that fully guaranteed deal, but, maybe it's trade bait. Maybe somebody else goes for him. He's only a 5th-round pick. Maybe somebody else likes what they see from him. Check him out during that game. Some music to check out. The Well and Megaphone are playing tonight at Hotel Vegas. 2 really good hard rock bands, so you can check that out. And over at Saxon Pub, Pack is playing right now with a bunch of Austin's best female musicians. Patrice Pike is playing tonight at Saxon Pub, and Jessica and the Vanity Project, a stacked lineup tonight at Saxon Pub. Patrice Pike, Austin, is one of Austin's best for many, many years. She's an awesome show always, and a great person as well. Always enjoy talking to Patrice Pike. And then we'll also tell you that if you can watch ILB baseball, the minor league baseball system, tonight, Michael Brantley making his 2nd rehab assignment for the Sugar Land Space Cowboys. He played 2 days ago on Tuesday. He made his first minor league rehab assignment, played out in left field, went 1 for 3, had a 2-run home run in it, though. So giving some people some hope in Houston that Michael Brantley may be coming back. He is playing tonight. I believe the game is at 7:05 in Sugar Land, but they're playing the Round Rock Express. So you can check out some Rangers prospects, check out some Astros prospects, and see if Michael Brantley looks like he's almost ready to come back up and make a major league re-debut, because it feels like it's been 2 years pretty much since we've seen Michael Brantley playing in an Astros jersey. So that'll be fun to watch that. And tomorrow, if you're a basketball fan, jonesing for some basketball like I am, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we should have, and it may be 11 p.m. I need to look at this again. I know tomorrow, though, it is going to be, I believe, tomorrow at 11 a.m. On FS1 is USA Men's playing versus Greece. They're in Saudi Arabia. Giannis had to back out because he's not fully recovered from his injuries. So Giannis will not be playing part of the Greece team, but you will get to see that USA team playing a game against Greece, play and see if they're ready. A lot of people questioning it. We know Gilbert Arenas doesn't like it. Trae Young wanted to be on that team. He's not there. James Harden not on that team, but you can go check out his new wine, J. Harden Vineyards. They have some wines out. Apparently he was in China. He's doing a tour there for Adidas. They did a live stream he was doing a live stream talking about his wine and sold 10,000 bottles of wine in a few minutes. The most they've ever sold in a day. China helping out James Harden there. He may just go over there. Is Dwight Howard still over there? If the Philadelphia 76ers doesn't work out, maybe he just goes and plays for the Shanghai Sharks next year. We got to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with the Sports Complex, 5 o'clock, right here on the Horn. Talking more Texas football, talking more NFL, getting you ready for the preseason weekend, a little bit more MLB to get you ready for those series. All that coming up, and whatever happens in sports, we'll cover it right here on the Sports Complex. Until then, be kind to each other, take care of yourselves, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn.